Hi, my name is Kyoto Crank, or you can call me Michael, and this is my YouTube channel where I talk about video games, review video games, and now learn how to make my own and make devlogs sometimes. So I've been wanting to make video games for as long as I can remember. I just never really stopped intimidating myself out of it or stopped excusing myself out of learning until October of 2024. I settled on the Godot engine. I was thinking about using Unity, but with all the layoffs and everything, I didn't really want to support Unity in any way, shape, or form. So I am now on Godot. So this video serves three purposes. Purpose number one being to record my progress and look back on, the same reason you keep birthday cards and Christmas cards and things like that. Like, it's good for nostalgia, it's good for memories, and I don't know, it's gonna be really nice to one day just look back and see where I began. Number two is to inspire others and share my learnings and some advice that I have for fellow beginners, because as I said, October 2024, I had absolutely zero knowledge on how to do anything related to games. And this entire video is unscripted, if you couldn't tell already. So there's no telling when I'm gonna have some nugget of wisdom drop. So if you're watching this to learn from me, as well as entertainment, I recommend watching all the way through my ramblings. Maybe you can filter something useful out. Number three is to create awareness for this project that I'm working on. I have a name, I have a concept, I'm just not ready to reveal that stuff yet. Out of fear of someone just stealing my idea, my intellectual property, and just kind of running away with it, because I truly believe that it is a really good and creative idea, and I've shared it with other people, and they're totally on board to try to help me get this done. So that's my first piece of advice, is if you can help it, try not to do everything 100% by yourself. Like, yes, it is super impressive for people like Concerned Ape to make Stardew Valley. That's one of the most, well-recognized games in the modern era. But not everyone is Concerned Ape. Not everyone is capable of learning how to do everything, or has the desire to do everything, or the time, or the resources. Like myself, I work 40 hours a week minimum. I'm in my mid-20s. Like, I'm not in high school anymore. I had a job in high school too, so maybe there are some high schoolers out there who don't have as much free time as they would wish, whatever. Anyway, that's just to say, if you have some good buddies who are willing to learn, who are willing to help you, and understand that Rome wasn't built in a day, then try to not do everything on your own, even as impressive or as cool as it may be, because games that do take that long take years and years and years, and I myself want to see a little bit more like immediacy, more immediate progress, and I want to try to tackle this before more life stuff just gets in the way. So number three reason for this video is creating awareness of this project. Maybe I just said that, so I'll just skip right along here. Anyway, so let's dive in and see what I have so far. Hold your horses, don't get too excited. So here in the Godot engine, let's open up the menu, and the first thing we see is my absolutely super impressive title screen. Yay! The settings button doesn't do anything, but you can see out here in the output it says settings pressed, so there will be functionality obviously at some point. The quit game button works. Let's run this again. Start game. Let's see, I have settings menu, resume works, restart, just reloads the level. Settings, let's turn on the music, which is really the only sound effect I have right now. Quit button also works. Let's see, open this back up, start game. I don't quite have it to where it saves your sound settings, so that's something that's going to be fixed at some point way later down the line. That's very low priority for me right now. Anyway, we have movement, we have animation, we have jumping, double jumping. Let's get the mouse out of the way. We have attacks, we have different types of attacks. we have mana that we pick up, we can do something special when we have enough of it. So look, ooh, super fast hack slash attacks, right? Let's see, let me actually find a way to take damage so I can show off these health bars. Oh, look, that's double jumping, wall sliding, isn't that cool? It actually took me a really long time to figure out how to do the jump out of the wall sliding. So, I will make a tutorial on this at some point. I don't know how much of my own code from this project that I'm working on I'm going to include, but it's taken me from October of 2024 to now the time of recording this is January 12th. So it's taken me a really long time to get this character controller to a point where I'm like highly satisfied with it. You know, still many more things to do. But look, I take damage and there's particle effects, little red blood splatters. Okay, if I can get out of this, that'd be nice. Dodge roll, look at that, dodge roll to not take damage. Oh, they're pushing me off the edge, but dodge roll out of the way, see? Yeah, isn't that cool? There is this one little bug where, you know, if I'm in the air and I'm like mashing the attack button, it keeps the same timer most of the time. Which, like, I guess, you know, can kind of make sense, you know, like coming out of the air into more consecutive attacks, you know, it takes it out of you, I guess, but I'm not really looking for realism or lore accuracy or anything. There will be something that I'll add whenever, you know, you have more mana than is required. You'll do extra damage. Like this project, or, you know, what you're looking at now, like this knight and these frogs and these bats and things. I'm not sure how far. Well, and you see, I reached my level limit too. That's, you know, I've only done 3 test levels, and it's really just for the testing of functionality. I'm not sure how far I'm going to take all of this stuff for this specific project right here. It's mostly just my playground for the project that I really want to do, which, you know, I hate to say it, but it might be my dream game. I know people say don't work on your dream game, but if you don't give a shit about what you're working on, then it's really hard to find or make excuses for yourself to make the time or to find the time to work on the thing that you want to work on. Like, it's not going to be perfect. Like, your first game is never going to be perfect, but if you have a concept that you really enjoy or that you're like super married to, then just try. Like, what's the worst that you can do other than just, you know, stop and start another project? Do it while you have the time, you know? As I said before, this video is completely unscripted, so I'm kind of rambling at this point, losing my places. So I guess from there we'll move on to point number 2, you know, and inspire others and share my learnings and stuff and give you some advice. My first piece of advice is to learn in a way that works for you, I guess. I'm not one of those people who can sit down and watch a 2-hour-long video on you know, state machines or whatever. And that's another thing. I'll try to remember state machines. I'll talk about that in a second. I can't sit down for a lecture for something like that. So I much better learn either through my own trial and error or watching a short video, like anywhere between 3 to 20 minutes, I guess, depending on the complexity of the systems or the mechanics. And just learn piece by piece. Like, let's say I want to learn how to do double jumping. I'm gonna go look up a video on how to do just double jumping, and I'm not gonna rest until I learn how to do that. Or wall sliding, or wall jumping, or attack combos, or whatever that thing may be. Make a list, make a document, find a sheet of paper and write it down. Alphabetical, numeric, like, I don't care how you order it, but maybe just make a list and go from there. Throw a dart at the board and figure out what you're going to work on a day. And that's my next piece of advice is just making time regularly. It doesn't have to be every day. I know, like, things like Inktober, you know, try to inspire yourself, draw something every single day in the day of October just for the sake of drawing. And it doesn't have to be good or anything like that. Like, you don't have to finish a mechanic or a feature in a day. You just need to work a little bit, you know? Rome wasn't built in a day. They didn't just have a pre-assembled Rome to just take from here and move over here, you know? They had to lay it brick by brick, or like stone by stone, or however they built Rome, I guess. Aqueducts or whatever. Yeah, piece by piece, start small. I did have little teeny tiny projects that I was trying to do before the one that you're looking at now, or I guess were, I don't have it on screen at the moment. And then take those things and like a side scroller, you know, infinite runner, for instance. That was my very first thing, and it was just a rat running through a house getting chased by cats. And there was different pieces of furniture like a sofa or a coffee table or bookshelves or hanging or floating shelves on the walls that would fall when you stepped on them and things like that. And that, because what I wanted to do when I got into this was this 2D platformer, so I found a very basic small scope way to begin adventuring into it. Yeah, and just I got to a point where I was like, okay, well, I have movement, I have jumping now to get into what I really want, which is satisfying combat. And I just did not rest for a really long time, you know. It's carving hours out of what would otherwise be my relaxing free time, or god, even my sleep schedule sometimes. I probably shouldn't say that, but it's true. I did at some points get less sleep than I should have for the sake of making time for learning game development. A very bad piece of advice. If anybody asked, I did not say that. My next piece of advice is to write comments. Like, anywhere that something isn't just immediately obvious to you, like what it means, whether it's something that you created yourself or something from a tutorial that someone else has offered for you, and you're learning from, and you put that in your code, you're trying it, you're tweaking it, yada yada yada, whatever. Write comments. Write it next to your variables, write it next to your functions. And then here's some free code, I guess. You can't do too much with this, but my favorite type of comment is just separating my code you know, into sections. I like to do these long comments with these hyphens and, you know, kind of explain briefly like what this section right here is for, or what it does, or, you know, maybe what the intended functionality is, but it doesn't quite work yet, or something like that. Which, you know, just speaking of lines, like I said, I've been working on this for 4 months now, I think, if I'm not doing the math, but that's probably right. I have 500 lines of code. It's taken me a long time to fit everything, and that's not even including everything else, you know, my audio options, you know, my different enemies, the frog and the bat, my global script, my health bar, my health orbs, my mana orbs, main menu, level portals, my level scripts. Like, I have a script for just about everything in the game. Going back, speaking of scripts too, and just now remembering the thing I want to say about state machines, another thing that kind of put me off for like a month whenever I first started really thinking about getting into game development, was state machines were incredibly intimidating to me. Coming into this, you know, stuff with absolutely no knowledge whatsoever, something as complex as state machines was a very good reason, or a very good excuse, to tell myself that I'm not ready for it yet. When, you know, I have proof for you right here, you know, 500 lines of proof that you don't necessarily need state machines for super complex functionality. Like, all of my animations handle just fine. You know, let's see what happens when this guy slides off the wall. Okay, he doesn't quite exit that wall sliding animation, but I'm sure that's just a little fix somewhere. Because ultimately, the script here is going to do the same thing as a state machine is going to do. It's just conditions and conditional statements. I have so many ifs and if else statements and else statements, lots of conditional coding that people are going to tell you and probably comment in this video that it's a horrible way to code. You shouldn't do it that way. But I say the worst way to code is in a way that you can't understand, and I can understand this. It might not be the most optimal way to do it. Like maybe my game will process a fraction of a second slower than yours will because of the way I have this set up. But for me, it makes the most sense to have everything in the code, in the relevant script. Like I have my knight character, which is, you know, my main player character, and 99% of the things relevant to him are in his script. Now there are some global variables that are housed in my global script because that's just how I decided to handle those things. Like my mana amount for the special attacks, I could have that in this player script, but I've chosen to put that here because I'm probably going to create some other functionality that is going to call on that player mana amount. For instance, maybe there's an enemy that saps mana away, so you need to, you know, use it before you lose it type deal, you know? Or maybe they'll deal damage to you based on the amount of mana or whatever. But because I had that idea, I just went ahead and put that in the global script. When, you know, you can call it from, you know, your knight or your player script or whatever, but I'm only going to have one source of that mana pool. So I'm just going to put it in my global because I know the global script, I know that the global script works, and it works for a lot of things for me. My next tip, which I'm assuming you've probably seen a Godot tutorial or two by now, but just in case, because it took a moment for it, or took a while for it to actually click for me in my brain, you know, but the ready function happens one time. When your player or your bat or your frog, or when something is instanced or otherwise spawned or generated or whatever term you want to use, whenever it is summoned for the first time in the world, this ready function happens, and it happens one time. It will never happen again, to my understanding. Again, I'm a beginner, so don't take my word as gospel, because you will probably get scarlet lettered or something like that. Physics process, it happens continuously. It's going to happen once, it's going to happen on the next frame, and the next frame, and the next frame, and so on and so forth until your game is closed, until they exit to desktop. So having said that part about the physics process, that's how I learned that I can create my own functions. And you know, there's a bunch of code. Let me zoom in real fast so you can't steal everything. So I watched a lot of tutorials but didn't really understand how they were doing it. But you can create your own functions inside this physics process. For instance, I have my check player hurt box. So just to give you an idea, my player hurt box is this big green thing. And yes, it's offset. It's not correct right now. I don't really care because this is a test, this is playground, sandbox. So it can be bad because this is not final. So don't hate on me in the comments for it, please. So anyway, every frame, because I'm calling that function, this big green area is looking for the enemy area, which right now it's disabled, so you can't see that it's red. And I don't really want to mess with it right now, but just, yeah, you see it right here. It is normally red. But whenever this attack area is enabled and is inside of this green area, then that's how my player knows how to take damage. So it took a lot of brainstorming to get to a point where I was like, how do I how do I continuously call that? Because that's not a function that I really want to stop. I need to check that for more things than just enemy attacks. I don't want to test it on just enemy attacks, and then, you know, it gets complicated with timers and things like that. So you don't need a timer with this because, as I said, it happens every single frame. So that's, you know, 24 frames per second, 30 frames per second, 60 frames per second. I'm sure you're understanding where I'm getting at with this. So yeah, you can create functions that do stuff like that, but you can also, you know, let's see, like timers, you know, your timer timeouts, your area entered, your area exited. There's so much functionality available to you at your fingertips. I guess my final piece of advice, because this video is now 20 minutes and I'm not sure how much I'm going to be editing out of it. My final piece of advice is to print, you know, use your debug, your output screen here for everything. Like, if you want to make sure that your attacks are happening correctly, find your attack function, and you could literally, we're just going to pretend that this one right here is my attack function. So we're going to say print, and then you would put in a variable, let's say, you know, health. So every time that this function is called, or, you know, physics process is called, it's going to print my health. So if we open this up, start the game, and see, again, that goes back to what I said, this character, this player was not instanced yet, so it only started counting whenever he was created in the game world. So you can put that in there so to know that your functions are working. Or if you have a condition such as if not taking damage, then print your health. Or if taking damage, print your health. Or if taking damage, let's see, you use quotation marks to determine, you know, that it's text, that it's not just like a value or anything like that. So let's say if taking damage, print taking damage true. And then you might have a function below here that I'm just going to do a comment line, say on taking damage timer timeout. I know I misspelled that, that's fine. You know, put your parentheses because that's how functions normally look. Then you could say on taking damage timer timeout, taking damage is equal to false, and print, and then again quotation marks, print taking damage is equal to false, or taking damage false. End it with parentheses and, or end quote and end parentheses. So yeah, use that a lot. Use that for everything. You can use it for animations, which I probably shouldn't give it away, but I'm going to because I have a kind soul. Here, right here, in my attack function. God, you know, steal everything. Steal my 4 months of hard work. I have this line right here where it prints my attack animation. So I come in here, I start the game, it prints attack 1. Now you notice how whenever I'm mashing the button, which I hope you can't hear it. I spent about an hour trying to work on my audio settings, so hopefully you wouldn't hear this loud keyboard I've had for 10 years that I now refuse to replace at this point. Whenever I chain into my other 2 attacks for my 3 attack combo, it's not printing attack 2 or attack 3. So because I have that right here, I can understand, okay, well, this is where this is, you know, this is happening. It's happening as it should. Now the part where it's printing, you know, my combo or something like that, why isn't that working? That should also be printing. Or maybe it's just that that print function is only called there and it's not called where your other thing is. And it's just good for a lot of things. So similar to printing, I also highly recommend using labels. So this is my mana label and my health label. So going back to my knight, you see I have mana label and I have my health label. Now the health label is blank in the text box on the right hand side of the screen, and my mana label has the word mana with a colon in it on the right hand side of the screen. You can use either one. You can use a label, or this is a rich text label. It's just for debugging, unless you're planning on for some reason having this in here, like maybe it's a city management or something like that, and you want to display above each NPC's head what materials they're carrying, then a rich text label might be of interest to you. It might be really good for you. But if you're using it just like debugging like me, then you probably only want a normal label. That's just less for Godot to process. That's less complexity for you to have to figure out how to understand. So I tried both here just for the sake of learning. But ultimately, like, all I really need is this basic label. So how labels work: you'll call your label in, you know, in your variables section, like I have right here. I have my mana label. And in case you don't already know, again, just more for information, you click and drag, and I'm still holding the mouse, and hold control and then let go. And then that calls it right here. Now I'm getting an error because I have this twice. So I'm just going to control Z my way out of that. So it's referenced right there. Change this to whatever you want, whatever makes sense to you. And then I have it in my physics process, so that way it updates you know, at the beginning of my physics process, and updates every single frame, as we discussed before. So my mana label dot text is equal to, now in the same way with the print function that we talked about, you want to use quotation marks to determine that this is just text. This isn't a variable. It's not anything fancier than it needs to be. It's literally just text. And then I had an issue, which it might have just been my own mistake, but I had an issue where I couldn't just put a space right here and it worked properly. So I took that out, and just for the sake of just, you know, throwing spaghetti at the wall to see if it would stick, I did quotation marks and I put a space right here and it worked. So that's my recommendation to you. Please let me know if it worked differently for you. But as you can see, I'm working in 4.3 stable, and this is the latest version of Godot to my knowledge. So this date of January 12th, 2025. So mana colon, and you know, put it inside your quotation marks, plus space plus, and then here I need to convert what would normally be an integer or a float or just, you know, number value. I need this to not be a number anymore. I need it to be a string, and a string is the same thing. It's just text. So string. And I'm using global here because, as I said before, my mana amount is housed inside my global script. So if it wasn't, then, you know, I could just put mana amount. That's fine. But it's in my global, so I need to refer my global script with my mana amount plus, and then I did the out of 30 because you need 30 mana to be able to do a special attack. That's just an arbitrary number that I determined at this time that may or may not change. Anyway, so yeah, you see it right here where I had that other thing where it's not global because I keep track of health in my player script, my player health in my player script. So I highly recommend using these labels as I do. Let's see, go back to the game, turn that music down in case it's way stupid loud. So I can use these labels for, you know, my enemies chasing or roaming. See how the bat is going random, and now when he's chasing, he's going straight to the player. Same with the frogs. Yep. So, you know, just one more time, just showing off my functionality. You know, we've got attack, we got double jumping, wall jumping, special attack whenever you collect enough mana, going through different levels when you go through the portal. And then whenever you take damage, let's just take a little damage here. Okay, come on, guys. And I get within range of the health orbs, then you pick up health and heal. And they don't chase you forever. If you get outside of their range, unlike the mana orbs, then they stop chasing you. But mana orbs chase you forever. Now that was just a decision I made at this moment to like have a play in the difficulty. That may or may not change, you know, it just depends on whatever happens down the road. But yeah, so part number 3, creating awareness for this project. I hope I have created that awareness. I hope that, you know, I purchased this green screen, which I guess you can't see it, but I purchased this green screen just to have a background in, you know, I don't want to show off my whole room, whatever. To have place myself in these videos to create this more interpersonal experience, like show you like it is, you know, one person behind the screen really doing this until I do get my I've got 2 friends right now who are willing to help me out on this. So other than them, it's me doing everything, you know. They're supposed to help me with art and animation, as well as the storyline, narration, and dialogue. So that leaves everything else for me as of right now. Level design, soundtrack, sound effects, all that good stuff. So if you made it through this entire video, or you just skipped your way through, thank you very much for watching. I hope you stick around for future devlogs. This one is devlog number 0 because I don't have really anything super crazy to show off, just my super complicated player controller script. Because like I said before, I think that's the most important thing that I needed to get done before I could really make progress on anything else. Because if platforming isn't fun and the attack mechanics and stuff like that aren't fun, then, you know, what's the point? Why would anybody take the time to play the game if the feedback that they're getting is inadequate? You know. But yeah, thanks again for watching, and I'll see you in the future in the next devlog. Thank you again.